Okay, guys, we're gonna start because I don't want to start too late. We have a lot to cover. So Day of Learning is sponsored by a special neshama that I got to meet 2 weeks ago. She comes here, she speaks French, Deborah Portnoy. No, you just spoke about her. She's amazing. But she sponsored it to all the teachers of the Midrashat, Margie, Revital, Michal, Vivka, and me, and to honor our inspirational Torah leader, Esther Sidbon. So kol hakavod to Deborah. May Hashem bless you and give you only health, mazal, briut, only good things and success in everything that you do. I don't know if she's hearing me here, but I guess she'll hear in the recording. Bezrat Hashem. I guess the lunch was different. Okay. Okay, so I also want to mention Bezrat Hashem refuah shalema to Eleni Ona bat Chen Chana, to Leah Chana Dvorah Chaya bat Mazal Tov, Eliyahu Hanavi ben Tita Esther, I believe is the one she wrote on the Midrasha, Rafael Chaimer ben Simachasha, to Adel Miriam bat Michal Aliyah, to Lilian bat Aliyah, Liam Rafael ben Shina, and Ben
Ilana Bat Kotiyafa.
Ilana bat Kotiyafa,
Levi Rafael Ben Olga.
Levi Rafael ben Olga, and Bet
Shulamit Tavia.
Rivka bat Shulamit Batya. Can't hear anything.
Happy Bat Sevka.
Chasya bat Simka. Bezrat Hashem, refuah shlema, refuat hanefesh, verefuat haguf. And I'm thinking of someone very special that is going to have a medical procedure soon. Bezrat Hashem, may she have besorot tovot. And Bezrat Hashem, only good news for all of us, personal redemptions, whatever we're going through, that we have the strength and the courage and the health to overcome everything. So that's very important. Okay, this is recorded. Okay, perfect. So last week, I don't even remember what did we speak about last week? My pregnancy brain is.
The psychology thing and like therapy and the Torah.
What do I have?
Stuck on me.
What, this? Oh, fine. Yeah, sorry.
We talked about like the difference, I think, between like the psychology or something like that.
Yes, thank you. So we spoke about Chokhmat Haolam, which is the wisdom of the world, and we compared it to Chokhmat Torah, the wisdom of the Torah. Is it the same type of wisdom, or are they separate, or do they all come from Hashem? So we basically established that. Oh, you're good. It's good luck. We established that the wisdom of the world, like psychology, biology, science, is still part of the Torah, but it can be sometimes filtered if it's not for Avodat Hashem. And when we speak about the Torah, it's pure wisdom, and there's no filter necessary, really. So everything that we do really should be L'Shem Shamayim. So this week is a little different. We're going to talk about the ego, our inclinations, the spirit, and the soul. And this is actually very similar to the next class, Bezat Hashem, when we talk about, not me, but when Margie speaks about the Tanya, and we talk about, the animal soul and the divine soul. But this is going to be a little bit different. We go a little bit deeper into what are our inclinations, what does it cause us to do, and how do we actually break those patterns. So I want to start with a question, because I definitely feel like it's a yes for me, but have you ever felt like there's multiple versions living inside you? Because sometimes I'm like, do I have like an identity issue? Like, am I like, do I have multiple personalities? Like, what's going on here? And we do feel, almost on a daily basis, that we're being pulled in a lot of directions. A perfect example is there was a movie that came out, and I was like, it's not the most appropriate movie. And I was like, oh my God, should I go see it? Should I not? I ended up falling for it and I went, but I was like upset at myself. I was like, ugh, there was like a tug in me from my past life, my past non-religious self, where I was like, I loved movies and romance and I love reading romantic books. But then I'm like, I know that it's not the right way to pursue the Torah and to better myself. So I really was like really tugged between two worlds. I'm like, okay, I want to be a better person, but I'm also like, I want to enjoy, I want to watch read a romantic book or whatever it is. But sometimes really we are being pulled in two directions. And then we ask ourselves, which one is me, right? Which one is the truth? Is it the person that wants to be better and the person that is good? Or is it the person that is pulled in the other direction? All right, so we're going to try to answer that today. And this also can come in the form of you can be like the most understanding, calm, amazing person, and the next day you're snapping at everything, you're angry, everything bothers you, the world looks dark, right? It's like up, down, and that too. But up, down, up, down, up, down. You're like, okay, which one is me? How do I even bring everything into balance? So, in these situations, it's actually very difficult to determine which is the real you. Is it the calm one, the reactive one, the thankful one, the jealous one, the giving, the taking? Which one are you? Right in all of this. So I want to suggest, first of all, that it's not a personal failing. When you choose to do one thing over another, which is not necessarily going to better you as a person, but you're being tugged in that direction, it's not a failure. Okay, it's actually this specific tension, right? This contradiction that you have is actually, first of all, a sign that we're human beings, but also, according to Rabbi Dessler, we're not one simple single thing. We're actually very layered. We have a lot of layers inside us. And these layers, they don't agree with each other sometimes. So there's tension. There becomes this tension and friction. And that's where we're kind of like pushed to kind of figure out how do we create that balance. So in order to understand this, we're going to dive into the inner human and interactive forces. Okay, so I want to write this down. I'm so excited that I have a board here. I'm sorry that this is back to high school, but I have to just write it so that you can see it visually. So we have the ego. Sorry for my handwriting, it's not the best. We have the nefesh, which is pretty much our inclinations. Then we have the ruach and neshama. Okay, this is pretty much the structure. Okay, I highlighted these two because they're pretty much the same thing. So when you look, sorry guys, I don't think you guys can see what I'm writing here, but basically you have the ego and the nefesh, which is the same thing. You have your inclinations. The ego is always asking, what do I want? What do I need to take? What do I? Okay, so I. And then we have the ruach, which is, I want to be a better mom. I want to be a better teacher. I want to be a better friend, a better wife, whatever it is. But you want to better yourself every day. There's always that voice, that tug. So there's usually tension between this and this, the nefesh and the ruach, which again, the nefesh is part of the ego. And then we have neshama, which is the highest self. Okay? Which is pretty much pure divine part of us, right? Like we say in the Tanya, Chalek Elokim mima'al mamash. Really, we are quite literally a part of God. So this part is the highest sense of self. And this is where when you're giving to someone, we spoke about giving and taking. Sometimes we give, but we also take. So at the same time, meaning that we're giving tzedakah in order to get recognition. We're doing chesed in order for someone to be like, I love you so much, I appreciate you, right? Because we're missing the love and the attention and the affection. So sometimes we give in order to take. When you're acting from a pure intention where you're giving, but you don't want anything in return, you're not even thinking about it, that's a pure part of your neshama that's speaking. Okay, so we have these four aspects. Really, it's three because the ego is part of the nefesh. Okay, so we have the nefesh, ruach, and the neshama. Okay, so so again, the ego, the nefesh, and the yetzer, which is our inclinations, is our life force. So so it's basically built from the power of taking, which we said back when we spoke about giving and taking. It's called koach hanetila. Okay, netina means to give, netila means to take. Okay, so it comes from the power of netila, to take, and we're primarily concerned with what do I get? Okay, what do I get in return for this? If we're hungry, we reach for food, right? If we're thirsty, we reach for water. It's like this exchange of like, I need, I will get. Okay, so it's always the ego, it's always the I. Okay, the nefesh, which is again the ego, is instinctual. It's emotional when we respond to a specific stimuli, when we automatically respond to something, right? Because we're human beings. That's still all part of the ego. So it's desire driven, it's reactive, but Rabbi Desser says it's not evil, it's survival based, right? We're hungry, we eat, we're thirsty, we drink, we didn't sleep, we get angry, right? It's all of these things that really push us instinctually. Okay. So examples: hunger, exhaustion, wanting comfort, having emotional flare-ups, For mothers and wives, it could come in form of snapping when you're overstimulated, when you're feeling resentful because you're just so depleted and tired, when your anxiety spirals because nothing's going your way, right? All of this really still comes from the nefesh, from that specific layer. Okay, so, and I want to be clear about this because Rabbi Destro explains that, we often don't have a lot of self-compassion when we do things that come from the nefesh, when we do things that are, you snap at your child because you had a long day, or you're depleted because you just, you're going through so many things in life and you're just like, you don't want to deal with another thing. You just don't have the energy, right? So it's not failure, okay? And it's not it's not something that is evil. It's it's a question that we basically have to ask ourselves. It's not why did my nefesh react to this, right? Because it's natural, but it's more, was there a higher part of me that's present in that moment? And could that part of me have intervened in that moment? Okay. And that again, we go back to self-awareness and consciousness. That is the most important thing. When we are not aware of what we do, there's no higher part. There's just the nefesh is doing what it's doing. But the minute that you start thinking about ruach and neshama and things being for Hashem, and instead of just doing things for us, right, doing things selfishly, that's when you start building the awareness and the consciousness. So again, going from the layer of nefesh doesn't mean that, your inclinations are evil or bad. It just means that we have to channel them in a way where we are also thinking about the ruach, the higher level of self. Okay? So he says, you always have to say, instead of why did I react like that, it's also, is there a higher part of me that could have intervened, that could have done a better job? And that's really where the avodah, the work lives. Okay, the work on ourselves lives. So I want you to think of a nefesh, like we said, the ego, the inclinations, all that is really nefesh, like a 2-year-old, right? A 2-year-old who hasn't slept, hasn't eaten, is overstimulated, will have a meltdown, okay, no matter what. So it's not a moral failure, it's the nervous system doing its job, right? The nefesh is very similar. It has needs. So when those needs go unmet for a very long time, then it makes itself known very, very loudly. Okay, like you need to do something. There creates this like tension and friction. So the question is not how to have a nefesh and not want anything, right? It's more who is parenting the nefesh. Okay, how do we take control of the nefesh where we have the needs, we need to meet them, but in a holier way, where the ruach is involved, where there's another layer. Okay, so did I do this? Okay, so when you three, okay. So when you look at your most difficult moments that you're going through in your life, the ones that you're not proud of, okay? So do they tend to happen when you're physically depleted, when you're emotionally drained, or when you're feeling unseen or unrecognized? So you have to pay attention, like what's triggering that, okay? And what does that tell you about your nefesh? Okay, so I can tell you from my personal response that we're very, very sensitized to our needs, right? If I'm hungry and my husband talks to me, I'm like, 1 second, stop, stop everything. I need to eat something first, right? It's like you almost like can't control it. And so I remember I was like, how do I like work on that where I'm not like so like, okay, I'm also pregnant to be fair, so it's different. But usually like when a woman is like hungry, you're like don't hangry, right? You're angry until you eat something, right? So that's the nefesh speaking. So I said to myself, how can I include the ruach in that moment? And I said the next time that I go, like a lot of people go to I said this in the giving and taking shiur, that a lot of people go to shiurim like for the food. Like, they'll go and the first thing they do is like, where's the dessert? They're obviously not gonna say that out loud, but they're thinking that in their head, right? You don't do a shiur without food. Like it's like a main attraction. So I was like, the next time that I go to shiur, I'm not gonna touch the food. Like I'm gonna eat before because I don't wanna even, you know what I mean? Like to work on that like thing of the nefesh wanting the food and being impulsive and the hunger, but to know how to kind of like quiet it. So I'm parenting the nefesh in a way. Okay? Was that an example? So It was pretty hard, by the way. I like came starving at the end because I didn't have time because I was feeding my kids. I'm like, Sean, you're here for the shiur, you're not here, and I ended up after the shiur going and then grabbing something. But I didn't want it to be my instinctual primary thing. Okay. So that is the difference when you're working from a nefesh perspective and when you're working from ruach, which is something a little bit higher. Okay. So another example is let me see,
Is it basically like having discipline?
Is it what? Sorry.
Like having
I think it's
discipline.
pure
control
control.
that
Yes.
basic.
Yes. Yes, I think discipline is huge because
Like with
you
intention.
right. But a lot of people think also like because you're attracted to something, it means like, okay, that's it. Like we have to like stop. No, you don't stop the attraction. You learn how to kind of channel it, right? You learn to kind of parent it and be like, quiet down, like it's fine. So that it doesn't act like a 2-year-old. You're parenting the 2-year-old pretty much, but you're confining it. Okay, so so Rabbi Dessler explained. So going to let me see, I just don't want to skip anything. Okay, so now, so we spoke about the nefesh, which is the ego. Now we're going to go into the ruach. Okay, the ruach is the moral self. So we've spoken in the past about nekudat bechira. It's a point of choice. That's the translation in Hebrew. The point of choice where we make a choice to be different. We create a space right before we respond to something. We create a space to change. Okay, so for example, someone who is extremely angry, we're not saying, okay, from today to tomorrow, you're not going to be angry anymore. No, it comes in little sporadic moments where you choose one moment where you're going to try to make a space before you respond. Even if you responded angrily, even if you responded in anger, but if you just thought about it for a minute, that's already a huge thing, right? You created this awareness and this consciousness, and that really is, it sums up nekudat habechira, the moment where you create a change. So the ruach, which is the moral self, is also known as nekudat habechira, which we've spoken about it in the past. So it's the layer of choice, the part that feels guilty, the one that says, I want to be better. And this is very interesting because Rabbi Desser says the ruach gets to observe the nefesh. Okay, so you can behave in a way where you're looking at something, at your inclinations, at your ego from the ruach perspective. I want to be better, but then I'm screaming at my kids. So how does that work, right? So you're trying to better yourself, but you're also just creating an awareness where whatever your actions do, you look at it from a different light. You're looking at it from, you're parenting it. So you're like, oh, let's see how it acts. Let's see how I act to this situation, right? You're creating awareness. So the ruach is the moral self, just wanting to be better. I want to lose 10 pounds by the end of the month. I want to look good. I want to do more chesed. I want to go to shul a little bit more often to feel Shabbat more. Whatever it is that everybody's going through, that's the moral sense, the other voice that says, I want to be better. I want to do better. I want to be a big part of the community, whatever it is that each person really can relate to. So the minute you say, when you do something, why did I react like that? That's the ruach. Because some people just go through the day and they react, and there is no why did I react? There's just I reacted. So the minute that you look at it from the point of why did I react like that, and you take a step back, that's the ruach talking. Okay, so that's the higher sense of self. So so the question is, we said, why did I react like that? So it's proof that something. So when you say why did I react like that, it's proof that something is above your reaction. Meaning that if you're someone who's extremely reactive and suddenly you take a minute to think, right? We said nekudat bechira, the point of choice where you take a step back and you're like, why did I react like that? So right away you see that something is standing in your reaction. You're not just reacting. There's something higher than that. So we already have proof of ruach because we know ruach is almost this consciousness that we create. So something in you watched it happen, and now you're evaluating it. So again, we say the ruach oversees the nefesh. The ruach, the higher self, oversees the ego, the inclinations, what we do. So when you look at it like that, instead of saying, wow, I'm such an angry person, the ruach says, why were you angry at that moment? But it doesn't say you're an angry person. It just focuses on the behavior more than you are this.
It's true,
Okay?
It does feel like an out of body experience.
Yeah.
Sometimes when it's so not.
Yeah.
It's blocked out. And then you're like, whoa.
But that's amazing because you were aware, right? Some people just think
Yeah,
they start
yeah,
defending
have
themselves.
experience, like, for real,
Yeah.
it's crazy.
And they also say, by the way, I think this is like I don't know, you'll tell me because you're a therapist, when people have like intrusive thoughts or thoughts, so they say take yourself out of the thoughts because they're not your thoughts. So the minute you take yourself out of the equation, it really helps a lot because there's no blame, there's no guilt. You're kind of just looking at it from like an objective perspective, and you're not like, I'm such an angry person, I'm such a bad person. You're like, oh, I wonder why I responded that
Oh my
way.
God, can I share something super quickly?
Yes.
So I was, like in high school, and I would be really, really like upset about things. And I didn't want to talk to anybody about things. I would go on my photo booth and I would like record myself like I'm in therapy and like explain it. And then I'd watch it back and be like, this is all so dumb. And then I would there's my self therapy, like responding to myself. And then by the end of like those 10 minutes, I'm like, this whole thing is stupid. Like, why am I on photo booth talking for 10 minutes about a guy? Like, you know what I mean?
But it probably helped you a lot, no?
That's what I'm saying. It's like when you
that's
say
really
things out
awesome.
loud and then you read it back and pretend like it's your friend talking to you, you're like, bro, like what?
That's a really good idea.
That's a really good
And I have my phone book just full of therapy.
It's I love that because you did something about it.
Yeah.
You didn't just like ruminate and like
Well, I don't like people say
Bother.
journal and I don't like to write. So I started
Right.
recording myself and then I was
Right.
like, let me watch this back. And then I'm like, okay, it's straight. And then I would record myself. Okay, this situation's over.
now.
It's
now
so interesting.
situation is-
It's interesting that you say it because sometimes like when someone comes to us for advice and we give them the best advice, but then when
Yeah.
something happens, you're like, what do I do? So they say pretend like
I'm
someone's
really-
coming to you with the same problem. How would you respond? It's
Like-
it's really so
I
true.
really love
Yeah.
that.
When you're done, you're like,
Right.
Thanks
Some
for that.
people just don't like writing. It's true. They're both.
Yeah.
What I liked about the negative thoughts from the Tanya, which I found interesting, you're allowed to have negative thoughts, but leave them there. Don't materialize.
manifesting.
So essentially, okay, you have the thoughts, it's okay, it's there, take it out now and keep moving on by doing your own thing. So that was interesting because it's a mix between validating and
It's true, and not speaking it into existence.
correct.
I
And they
love
also
that.
say, like, even in the Torah, like they mention that, like, a lot of times our first thought is not us at all. Like, it's literally Hashem. Like, He sends you that thought, even if it's like a very intrusive thought. You're like, where is this coming from? They say that after the first thought, that's on you. So, like, if you continue to think
If you
about it,
feed the thought,
that's
right?
on you, like, meaning like that's your sin. Like, let's say a man, right? Like shmirat einayim, you're not allowed to look at a woman. So if by accident he looked at a woman and there was a thought, that was Hashem that sent him the thought. But if he continues thinking about the thought, that's on him and that's his sin. So I think it's like it really brings back like what's important and what's not. And like when we have thoughts, like we also Hashem is telling us you have the strength to stop it. You know, like that's
Right.
on you, right? Like that's your potential. It's like we give you, he gives you it because a lot of times he wants to test you. Like, where can you stop? Like, are you going to be able to stop? And then I think it also teaches you like discipline and like, you know, a lot of like reflection on like, you know, being able to understand that this is not me, you know, and like separating the two, which I
Right,
think is also really
Right. I
powerful.
love that. Yeah, it's beautiful.
Which ties into the Ruach.
Yeah,
character
exactly.
into the-
Exactly. So, so Rabbi Dezer says, the ruach, which is a moral feeling, it's where the conscience lives, right? We said it's creating that awareness, but it's also where love lives because it's not the nefesh hungry, like love, like need-driven love, but it's more like considerate love that pretty much it shows up when it's hard. It shows up when you're not necessarily doing it for specific external motives, right? You're just it's pure, it's more pure love, and you want to just become better. So that's really coming from the ruach. So he explains that the ruach can be developed and it can be trained. And one of the main tools for training it is exactly what we're doing now, right? It's thinking honestly and carefully about inner life. Every time you go into a shiur and it makes you think about things differently, you're already training your mind to be more aware, to be more conscious. So he says step one is you're already doing it, right? You're already here, you're building the consciousness, you're building the awareness. Okay, so here's an example. A woman is having an argument with her husband where she said something. It's so funny. It's actually something that you said. It's similar, where she said something she immediately regretted, right? She was like getting angry, she was getting upset, and she's just saying things, right? She's spitting things out. And she says the words were out of my mouth, and I could hear them while I was saying them. Like a part of me was watching from the ceiling, horrified. Okay, the voice that was watching from the ceiling, that was her ruach. right? She's kind of just like looking at me like, wait, what are you doing? Right? Like it's almost like you have two voices. Like while you're screaming, you're like, wait, what? Like hold on and stop, you know? So you have literally things push, two forces pushing you at the same time, right? So that was her ruach. So it didn't stop the reaction, but it saw it. Again, you're parenting it. So you're seeing how you're reacting, but you're also aware, like, okay, I shouldn't have done that even while you're doing it. Okay. So 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 it didn't stop the reaction, it saw it, and the next morning it was the ruach that brought her back to apologize, right? So the nefesh had the argument and the ruach cleaned it up pretty much, okay? So that was just an example so that we have a good understanding of the tension that we have between the nefesh and the ruach, okay? So now we have the neshama. Yes.
Um, when you associate ruach with the moral self, we understand that moral is like the good part of us. Can we also have negative ruach? Like, let's say my nefesh has an inclination, I want to help this person, but then my ruach, the thinking self, the one that you say that observes the nefesh, say, no, why should I help? Other people can help, or something like that. Like, or we're just going in the positive side. I just want to make sure it could work.
So when even though
Yeah, that's it.
you're looking at the scenario, but you're saying, why should I help? That's still nefesh. It's still the nefesh speaking.
So we get to ruach when we are already refining the thing to make it.
When you get to ruach, you're observing, but you're also saying, how could I have reacted differently, but in a better way? You're not saying, oh, I don't need to get right, because when you're saying, oh, I don't need to give, the nefesh is still talking. So we actually have to know the difference between the two. But you're right, it could be confusing because you're like, right, you're looking at a situation and you might not be thinking positively. So that's still the nefesh
I
talking.
mean, like what I told you last week
Okay.
with the guy who was crying.
Yeah, yeah.
Well,
No, that I had a situation a couple weeks ago that this guy that my friend invited to a house, super nice guy, but he was going through a really tough time and he's crying. And we just met this guy and my friend who's been through a lot. She was really triggered. She was like, I don't know this man. He's in my home. He's crying, and I can't hold space for this. Whereas me, I'm like, I was sitting there like, what all I wanted to do was like hear his whole life story and help him, but it's not my home and she wants him gone. So I was telling Shani, I'm like, for a week, I was like crying every time I thought about him, and I'm like, I don't know what to do. I'm not going to text him because
wow.
you know what I mean? Like, now he's going to depend on, like, no.
Right. But again, also that specific example, when she said, I can't help him right now, like I can't, that's because the nefesh was already like, it's dealing with so much, right? At this, when we said we're depleted, we're overstimulated, we're going through a lot. So the strength of the ruach gets a little bit dimmed because you're just dealing with so much that you're like, I don't want to be a better person right now. I'm dealing with 100 things. You're not thinking, right? Like I did
Yeah,
a
In her way, it was her way of being her best
Yeah,
person,
like I
because
think
she
that
asked
is the
for
ruach
myself.
also.
I'm gonna put my needs in before this random stranger.
No, but I think, yeah, but because of her history, I think
That's
that
what I'm
is a
saying.
ruach, like that is a ruach. Ruach can also be putting boundaries where you need to put them. Like,
Mhm.
you know, like maybe she did want to help the guy, but she's
She
like, this is
did.
too much for
She
me.
was
And like
crying about
that
it.
for
She
her,
left just
exactly.
crying.
It wasn't like she was like,
Ouch.
oh, I don't have time for this, or like I have no
Right.
patience. That's the nefesh. But someone that maybe does want to help, but also understand that in the process that can destroy them, or that can help, that can make it worse for them. That also could be working in the ruach,
Right,
like, you know,
right,
you understand.
right.
Like I think it really depends on each person, but I think the ruach is just you're working at a higher sense of self, and like if that's her higher sense of self, then she was working as the ruach. Even though for someone else that may see it from the outside, they could be like, she's so selfish. Like, why is she not? You know, but you know her story,
Yeah,
so you're
exactly.
able to like say that. You know?
Right, right. I think also if you know that in order to give, you have to give yourself first, that can still be ruach because you're taking, but in order to give.
Exactly.
And we spoke about that.
I love
Giving and taking. When you're taking, but you're doing it because you want it to be avodat Hashem later on and your intentions are good, that's ruach. That's still ruach. Even though you're not helping that person in that exact moment or situation, it's because you're like, I want to help him later. I want to be able to have the tools and the energy. I just cannot right now. Right? But then also it's like you don't know, like, do you really not have the koach? Right? You have to be, it's very,
It's true.
there's a very thin line
That's
there.
very simple.
And when you say the nefesh is instinctual, sometimes the instinct is also to have that defense mechanism, you know, to make us worry, like, is this
Exactly.
something,
Right,
you know,
right,
figure
right,
out
right,
how
right.
far- Yeah.
Right, yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's true. So right, so now we're up to the neshama, which is the highest self. And it's the pure giving, the pure connection that we have to Hashem, and that really the divine essence that we have that really is carried by Hashem. So above the ruach is the neshama, which is pure giving. It's pure connection to Hashem. There's no ego, there's no insecurity. You're not going to shul for the food, you're going to the shul because you want to learn Torah, right? So that's the pure neshama. Okay, so some moments of neshama examples is when you give without needing acknowledgement, when you forgive even though you're hurt, when you give tzedakah anonymously, you're not doing it for the recognition, you're doing it really because that person needs and you want to give. When you pray from brokenness, you're not, it's not just stam to pray, right? You're really praying from a pure, a deep self. When you choose growth over pride or over being right, okay, that's a big one. When you hold yourself from speaking lashon hara, right? Because no one sees that, by the way. When you're like holding yourself from saying something, nobody knows you're holding yourself from anything, right? Unless you're like, oh, wait, never mind, I don't want to say lashon hara, right? Unless you do that, then they're like, oh, kol hakavod, right? But when you're about to say it and you're like, oh, so Shani, how was your day? Right? Nobody saw that. So that's the purity. That's like the neshama part. Okay. So if you notice something about every single one of these examples, in each one, something in you is choosing against the ego's interest. Okay. The ego wants pride. He wants to be recognized. He wants to be heard. And you're like, nope. Shh. Don't tell anyone I donated this amount of money. Don't tell this person. I remember 3 years ago, this was like unbelievable. I don't know if I should say her name because I don't want to take away her zchuyot, but a really close friend of mine, I wanted to buy my first fall, like my first time like covering my hair. I was like, you know what? I'm going to take the first step. Maybe it'll be easier for me because that was a very, very hard mitzvah. And I told her about it. And I said, and I prayed to Hashem. I said, Hashem, you know what? Give me a sign that I need to cover my hair. If I don't get a sign this week, I'm not doing it, right? I don't know if we're allowed to do that, but that was my relationship with Hashem at that moment. So I said, give me a sign, whatever. Okay, so 2 days go by 3 days, and she texts me and she tells me there's a good friend of mine that's coming from Montreal. She sells wigs and she's staying at your building on the 11th floor. I was on the 9th. I don't even need to leave my house, right? And she's selling it from the apartment. I'm literally like, okay, I get it. Like, So anyways, I go upstairs. Look at this story. So incredible. This girl is just incredible. So you know the story. Anyway, so she's not telling me anything. She just tells me, okay, whatever, no pressure. Like, but she's literally staying in your building. She's on the 11th floor. Go, just try them on. This is it. Actually, I'm wearing it right now. This was the one that I got. It was like my first time. I tried. It was the first one I tried. I was like, I love it. I'll take it. She's like, 1 second. You don't want to like try them? No, I love it. It's like, it's like very me, whatever. So I ended up getting it. And she told me the price and I go, that's not usually like in my head. I'm like, it's usually a lot more. Like, and I'm like looking at the wig, like, is something wrong with it? Like, there's no way, like whatever. She's like, no, I'm having like a special sale. Like, this is the price. Okay. So I end up like paying for it because also I said to Hashem, if it's like thousands of dollars, like nobody got like money for that. So I'm not, I'm not whatever. So that also was perfect. So I'm like, I don't understand, like, whatever. Anyways, 3 years later, she tells me, the time when you got your wig, I paid half of it. And I told her not to say anything because I really wanted you to do the mitzvah. I literally have chills. And I literally told her, what? I'm like, you're telling me this 3 years, like, it didn't even go in her head to come and tell me, like, I want to take part of your mitzvah, like, whatever. Nothing. I was like, that was neshama for me. That was like pure, like, she just wanted me to handle the mitzvah. So this is in her zchut every time I wear it, that it will give her Bezrat Hashem health, happiness, and success and health for her whole family, that should be protected always. But that was to me, like, I was like, oh my gosh, this person did it for such pure intentions. There was no, like, she didn't need recognition. She didn't need the validation. She didn't need to be like, oh my God, right? But and by the way, she only told me this because we got into this like thing, and then she was like, and then she had to say it, but she didn't want to. So I was like, wow, like what a dula. Really, it was like an incredible moment. But that was a moment where I was like, wow, that layer that she acted from was pure neshama. It was pure divine intention. Okay, so that was just like some example of like my personal personal experiences, but so the ego basically you're always choosing something against the ego's interest. So the ego wants acknowledgement, the ego wants to hold grief, the ego wants the dignity of being right. When you act against those things, right, which is it's things that we need honestly as human beings. Sometimes we want to feel loved, we want to feel appreciated, we want to feel beautiful, we want all those things, right? But when you act against those wants, not from the willpower or obligation, but really a place of like a genuine wanting to just have a better connection with Hashem and to just be something better and bigger than ourselves, then that's the neshama moving. Okay, so that's the distinction between ruach and neshama. Ruach is I want to be better, and the neshama is already the action of you're doing something, and but you're not even thinking about getting a reward. You're not thinking about it's completely pure. The intention is pure. So Rabbi Lesser says that the neshama is the one dimension of us, dimension or dimension? Dimension, right? That is actually a piece of the infinite. It's not a metaphor or poetry or yeah, like we're part of the infinite. No, no, no. It's not like to make us feel better. It really is like we are a part of God. And he means it literally that there's a fragment, there's a part of the divine embedded in every human being. And I think Margie mentioned this because I used to teach Tanya, not for long because it was very hard, but in the beginning, I remember when I learned that when Hashem breathed life into us, it wasn't like, right? When you're taking a breath and you're meditating, it's not from here, it's from your very essence. So when he breathed into us, he literally breathed his essence into us. It wasn't just like, so for example, you can breathe all day long, but when you're blowing a balloon, it takes two different types of breathing, right? So you have the regular breathing and then you have that. It's like it takes all of you, right? So literally Hashem took all of him, not to chas v'shalom make him finite, but he really took all of himself and blew himself into us. So we really have literally a fragment of HaKadosh Baruch Hu. And it's not like something that sleeps or dies or goes away or gets diminished by the fact that we fail, right? It's always there. So it just kind of waits quietly until it's kind of activated. And it's like, oh, I'm here, right? So it's our responsibility to activate the part of the nefesh, of the neshama, but it's by being able to parent and quiet the nefesh, okay? Not to remove it, just to kind of train it, okay? So, let me see. Okay, so now we have the map. So we have the nefesh, which is the ego, the inclinations. Then we have the ruach, and then we have the neshama. The ruach is the one that observes the nefesh, and the neshama is the one that yearns, right? It's constantly it's sitting there quiet, like waiting, right, to be activated. But when there's tension between the ruach and the nefesh, the neshama doesn't intervene. And that's the problem. We have to go and activate it. It's not like it's going to be part of the tension, because that's not, usually we don't have that tension like we want to give purely. Most of the time there's something in there, even if it's unconscious, that we need or want, or it has to be given to us. But when it comes from the neshama kind of just sits quietly and waits for us to kind of reactivate it and bring it back to life. So it's a very important distinction between the ruach, the neshama, and the nefesh. Okay, so if the neshama is always present, if it's divine and instructable, this is an interesting question. So if the neshama is always present, if it's always divine and indestructible, why is it so hard to access? Do you guys, you want to open to this? So if the neshama is always present, like I said, it's always there. It's not like if you're failing, if you can't meet your challenges, if you're not becoming a better person, that it goes away. No, it's always there. But the question is, why is it so hard to access compared to the nefesh and the ruach? Like what's getting in the way?
Distractions. Like I feel like back in the day when there was like nothing but cavemen and fire, it's like way easier. All you have to do is like look at the stars and signs from Earth. But
Right.
You have like so much distraction.
Right. Okay, so sorry for cutting you off. I just realized the time. I'm like, oh my God, we have so much more to cover. So I'm gonna condense it. Pretty much what you said, and it's called the Yetzer Hara, right? We have the two counterparts, the Yetzer Hara and the Yetzer Tov. Okay, so I want to start. I want to talk about what the Yetzer Hara is not, because we hear the Yetzer Hara, we're like it's this evil, like devil on the shoulder, right? And then we have the angel that's fighting with him all day. So I'll tell you what it's not, okay? And the popular image we said is the angel on the shoulder, the devil on the other side. The angel tells you to do good, the devil tells you to do bad, right? That's like the main description that we have. And your job is to listen to the angel and ignore the devil, pretty much, right? But Rabbi Desser says that the picture is not only incomplete, it's actually dangerous to think that way. Because if the Yetzer Hara is just an external bad voice, then you can learn to just tune it out and just be like, okay, let me listen to the angel. But the Yetzer Hara doesn't work that way. It's like this was like mind blowing for me because that's really like what I would think. I'm like, okay, the Yetzer Hara is bad, Yetzer Hara, the bad inclination, and then we have the Yetzer Tov. So the Yetzer Hara, it's not a separate entity. Okay, it's not like okay, one angel here, one a devil here. No, it's a force within you. Okay, it's a set of drives and patterns of perception that pull you away from Emet. It pulls you away from the truth. Okay, and it uses your own voice. That's why it's so hard to access the neshama because it's you. So you're like, so sometimes you like want to choose good and then you just justify it so much when you're about to do something bad. It's like justified. So you're like, oh yeah, okay, it's not that bad. Like for example, one time I was talking about this person and I think it was, I don't know if it was you or Ed and my sister. They're like, Sharone, Sharone. I'm like, no, guys, it's constructive. Like I'm trying to get to whatever. Because I did when we were always learning the laws of Lashon Hara, that if it gets you to like you're trying to get advice and it becomes something constructive, you're not primarily trying to talk badly about the person, then you have to ask a rabbi if that would be like allowed, right? I didn't ask a rabbi, but in that specific situation, it was my voice saying, my literal voice saying, you're doing it to get someone's opinion, you're not doing it to talk badly, but it was still considered a shonara, right? So we have our internal voice that it's not always so clear that it's the wrong thing to do. That's why it's so hard because it uses our voice. It uses our perceptions. It uses our past experiences, our traumas, our childhood. And he says, but what do you mean? It was normal for you to react like that angrily. You didn't sleep the whole night. You're tired. You're overwhelmed. Like, it's okay to be angry. That's the voice inside you that is so similar to the ruach, but it's not the ruach, right? Like how we said, it's so hard to find the distinction between the two. Okay? So it pulls you from the truth and it speaks in first person. It sounds like you because in a real sense, it is you. It's just the part of you that's not refined. Okay? So imagine a woman, they're giving a story here. Imagine a woman, let's call her Rivka, okay? She's generally working on patience with her children and she made a commitment, okay? She learned about it, she wants to change. And one afternoon, her son spills juice all over her clean floors and he looks at her and he says, oops, okay? And then the anger rises and she's about to get so angry. And at that moment, a voice in her head says, you have every right to be angry. You just cleaned it. You're exhausted. He needs to learn consequences. He needs to be punished. What's a little slap on the butt? I was hit with a belt when I was growing up, right? Like you're making up all these stories in your head, but it's the truth. It's the truth. You didn't sleep. You're tired. You're angry. You're like, no, I'm going to punish him. He needs to learn. But is that the real thing? It's a voice. It's real, but you're like, is that the right? So that's the Yetzer. He says you have every right to be angry. It's a voice. It's not coming from outside of Rivka. It's not the devil on the shoulder. It's her. It's her talking. So it's rational. It's articulate. The Yetzer Hara makes a reasonable argument. It's like the best lawyer you'll ever have, right? It's not a red figure with a pitchfork, right? It's not like the devil, like we dress up like them in Purim. This is Devorah, who I was talking about in the morning. Thank you. She's so cute. So it's a lawyer that basically just is constantly talking to you and making a case. And you have to fight that every single time. But it's
You
you.
have to make the right decision.
Right. But it's you. He's like, but you're tired. You're right to you deserve to go watch that movie. You've been so good. You're studying Torah all day. Like it's fine to like enjoy once in a while. That was my voice. But was it the right voice? No, that's the Yetzer talking. That's why it's so difficult to access the neshama.
How do you get rid of that voice?
But 1 second. So, did you ever have an experience like deep inside that you're about to say something that you regret, right? And then the voice inside your head is like, no, like obviously say, like there's nothing wrong with that. It's you talking to yourself, but it's the Yetzer. It's crazy. So it's like, how do you differentiate between like what is ruach and neshama and what is really the nefesh that's talking. And the nefesh is again the inclinations, the yetzer hara. So how do we know which one's speaking, right? And it was the same thing. It reminds me like when I was covering my hair. I say this like I feel like every class I say this, but it's so hard for me. And like I still look in the mirror today and it's still a fight. It's not like I look in the mirror, I'm like, okay, like it's been years, like okay, whatever. No, no, no. Every day I'm like, you look ugly, you know? Like it's hard. It's hard. I want my hair. I'm like, it's not me. It's not whatever. So I know that it's my what?
Like when you first came, I didn't even know it was a wig, and then
Oh, really?
and then I kind of realized when I noticed that everyone here does it, like like I would never tell.
But again, it's still not, even though you can still look good, it's not your hair.
No, of course
It's
you-
not your hair, especially in the summer, guys. I'm like, I see women with stockings. I'm like, Hashem, I hope you give them all the schut in the world because that is so hard, right? But I'm sure though, even those people, they wake up in the morning. There are some people who have been doing it for years and they wake up in the morning. They're like, it's the hardest till today, the hardest thing for me because every day the yetzer comes and he whispers it and he says it in a very justified, nice way. Like, come on, no one's gonna notice you're not wearing stockings. You're wearing a long skirt. It's summer. It's hot. Come on, like, exempt already. You know, like if he's Israeli, I don't know. Everybody's has a different yetzer, but like, come on, you're exaggerating, right? It's like it's very hard to tell the difference between like if it's real or if it's not. The same thing with Lashon Hara, the same thing when you want to go to the Midrashat and you have so many things to do and you're like, I'm gonna get overwhelmed. I can't. I had my daughter's birthday party the other time and I was about to cancel the shiur. And then I was like, okay, no, like I'm gonna go. I'm gonna tell them if they can make it earlier so I can go to the class so I don't have to cancel. Right? The Yetzer is a very, very good lawyer. Okay. So Rabbi Lesser makes a move that's like it's a very sophisticated idea, right? In all of his literature, and he says that the yetzer hara, it's not a force of temptation, okay? And this was crazy to me when I heard it. It's distorted perception. It's not temptation. It's your perception is different, okay? It doesn't just make bad things look attractive, but it makes you see reality wrong. So, an example, it operates on the level of interpretation before even the level of desire. Someone, chas v'shalom, who is very inclined to cheating in the marriage. So, how does the yetzer work? You get in a fight with your husband. It's been a week you don't talk. I hope nobody has that where they go a week without speaking, but there are couples like that. And then suddenly, you're picking up your child from school, and there's a really nice man. He says, "Wow, you look great. I haven't seen you in so long." And then the yetzer hara plants a seed. You see, this guy gives you compliments all day. You look beautiful. Whatever your husband hasn't given you a compliment, and it's a small seed, but it's a planted seed that stays there. And then it's like it creates a friction, leat, leat. And then you get in another fight, and then he doesn't appreciate you and he doesn't validate. And then slowly that leads to the worst of the worst, but it starts from something so small. Something so small. So it's distorted perception. It's you see reality as my husband appreciates my husband doesn't love you, my husband this, my husband that, and then suddenly this person comes, he starts to change your reality, right? Like what if I wasn't with him, and what if someone appreciated me more? It's little voices in your head that starts building, God forbid, leading up to something that chas v'shalom, nobody should ever face that. But I'm saying at the end of the day, it's not just temptation, it's leading up to the temptation. He starts to make you see things a little differently using your own voice. Okay? So the yetzer hara already arranged the situation that it makes the harmful thing look not only appealing but even normal. You're like, it's normal. My husband doesn't give me any compliments. Look at this guy. He gave me compliments. And then, right, it starts building its case. Okay, so we have to be able to sensitize ourselves to find the point where he plants the seed and be like, no, 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 I know what you're doing, right? So the evil inclination doesn't come, the yetzer hara doesn't come and say, yalla, sin, do it, right? It's very, very smart. It comes and says, do this thing. It's reasonable. You're a human being. It's normal. It's hot outside. Don't wear the stockings. Yalla, shtiyot, right? It coats it in a layer upon layer of justification until the person cannot see what they're about to do, and that results in them sinning. They don't realize that it's even wrong at one point. I heard a story one time that there was a couple, Hashem yishmor aleinu, but they were both, I have so many other things, but we'll continue in next class, that basically they were both religious and they were like very good friends. It was a husband and a wife and a husband and a wife. And anyways, like they were like very talkative. I don't know how religious they were. I'm not sure. But anyways, the husband and the wife were best friends with the husband and the wife. But at one point there was the husband had to drop off something at the woman's house. And he came to drop it off. And unfortunately, Chas v'shalom, they ended up like being together, right? The the husband and the wife's the one of the husbands and then the other husband's wife, okay? Just because he had to drop something off, but it started from somewhere, right? It started from they sat down in a restaurant and they were probably all together, and then she like spoke too much to this person, or and then it was slowly leading up to it. It wasn't because he dropped something off and then out of nowhere that happened. No. It starts really slowly. So the Yetzer Hara gets you to a situation where you don't even think it's wrong. You at one point you're like, oh, okay, like maybe that it was natural for me. There's a guy in my house. I haven't spoken to my husband in so long, blah blah blah. Right? But there's other examples like this. I'm just giving one big thing, Hashem Yishmol, that it shows you that something so wrong can seem so right in that moment, and it can really lead you to sin. So the Yetzer Hara is very smart, and we have to be able to navigate between the ruach and the nefesh, and to know which one is speaking and which one is driving you. Okay, so the three modes of the Yetzer Hara is you're either a tempter, he makes forbidden things appear attractive. Okay. And that's the most obvious because most of the time we know something's not good for us, but they're so attractive that you really, you want to, you want to kind of be involved in it. Right. Then you have the prosecutor, which is he uses your needs. You need rest. You don't need to invite more people for Shabbat. You're tired, right? You need recognition, right? Like, nobody recognized me. I feel so whatever. And then you go and do tzedakah, but then like they put your name on like a synagogue. I don't know, right? So like people are doing things from not the best motives, but he uses your needs as a justification for crossing a line. So he doesn't invent the desire, he exploits it. Okay, we all have desires here, right? Even the biggest tzaddikim in the world, but it's to be careful not to put ourselves in a situation where the Yetzer Hara is able to plant a seed, and then we continue, right? We continue growing that seed. Okay. And then the third is an impersonator. Okay. He can pose as a conscience, a piety, or a virtue, right? And this is the most dangerous. So the ego can be dressed. We spoke about this just now when we were saying, how can we access the neshama? How do we know? He says the ego is dressed in the garments of the neshama. God forbid. And that's the most dangerous because we're doing something and we think we're doing it for the right reasons, and we're actually doing it for very wrong reasons. And that's the reason why if we don't build a consciousness and we don't build the awareness, we're not going to know the difference. And the ego is going to keep tempting you, and he's going to justify and say it's coming from your pure neshama. You're doing it for the best. You're amazing, and you're doing so much chesed. And I actually heard oh, but it's connected to the.
I know, but wait, so she.
Oh, you're right. Sorry. So you're what was I saying now, Yuka?
The impersonator is the ego dressed in garments of the neshama. They could be pious. What else?
It could be in a virtue. Okay, so somebody, for example, I heard a shiur that they said it's not about doing so much chesed and just keep doing mitzvah, but what are you doing it for? Are you teaching a shiur Torah so that people can be like, you changed my life, you're amazing, so that I can get compliments all day because I don't get it at home? Or is it because I genuinely want to teach Torah, right? Are we doing chesed? Are we giving tzedakah? Are we helping somebody else are we inviting somebody for Shabbat so that they're going to invite us next week, right? Are we doing chesed for that person so they're going to remember and talk about me to everybody and be like, oh, what a good person, right? A lot of people really do it from that standpoint, and we don't realize. So the ego gets stressed in the is he here yet, Esther? I think I'm a little bit. Is he?
It's Rabbi David.
Oh, it's March. Right, okay. So the ego gets dressed in neshama, meaning that, for example, you gossip and you call it concern. Like I said, no, it's constructive. No, I'm just worried about her. It's still lashon hara. You're not doing it from your neshama layer. Okay. You avoid a hard conversation. You're like, no, I just want to keep it, peaceful. I don't want to have like any bayot in the house. I don't want to have shalom bayit issues, so I'm not going to say anything. But are you solving the issue, or what are you doing it from? What intention? So again, the most important really is the awareness and the intention, right? The intention. And we have to keep building on that awareness, keep being aware of where are we coming from? Are we working from our neshama, or are we trying to quiet down the nefesh? Or is the ruach saying, I want to be better, but where do I start? Okay, so, I'm going to continue because we still have a lot to go, but we're going to continue next class. But I want you to think about these things. And I printed this. It's a very interesting handout. So basically it talks about neshama, ruach, nefesh, and ego. Okay, and then here is a little exercise, the nekudat habechira, which we spoke about, right? So in the green, you're going to write 2 to 3 habits of goodness that feel natural to you, that you're not fighting. You don't need, there's no like yetzer hara, like it comes naturally for you. 2 to 3 traits. Then you have the red, which is 1 to 2 patterns where the yetzer still tends to win. Okay. And then you have the center, which is one area where you feel the most tension right now. Okay, and it's going to help you be a little bit more aware of what's going on in your mind. Hi. So you can do this at home.
You have to do it. That was really good. I love it.